This is Imperialism number 4, and we are still talking about the Spanish-American War. And what we ended last chapter talking about, or last video talking about, was kind of the causes of how the American people are going to have their opinions swayed. So remember, you got some people that are neutral, you got some people that want to go to war, and some people that want Cuba to have its freedom. All right, so some people want to get involved, some people don't, some people just don't care. So what you have is this thing called yellow journalism. And what it is it's exaggerated news accounts and pictures or drawings that support it. All right, it was used by two major, the two biggest newspapers in the world, and they both were out of New York. You got the Journal and the World. So William Randolph Hearst ran the Journal, and I believe his first name was Joseph Pulitzer, ran the World, and that's the Pulitzer Prize, it's named after that guy. These guys basically fanned the war. Fan the war means made it bigger with Spain using drawings and headlines. So this is what William Randolph Hearst said. He said, if you furnish the pictures, I'll furnish the war. So it seemed like a war was unlikely, but these guys got it going so that they could start a war. And if there's one thing that sells newspapers, it's war. So this is the New York Journal. What you have here is destruction of the warship Maine was the work of an enemy. And we're going to talk a little bit about this later on. And it's the fact that the U.S. ship, the Maine, was sunk by a Spanish mine. Or so we thought. All right, it says naval officers think the Maine was destroyed by a Spanish mine. $50,000 reward, $50,000 reward. Assistant Secretary Roosevelt convinced the explosion of the warship was not an accident. All right, so nobody really knows what happened, but what they are doing is they're blaming it on Spain so people get upset with Spain. Similar to what's going on right now, you have President Trump blaming things on Nancy Pelosi or China. And so you have newspapers, different outlets are going to promote different things to try to get people to believe what they want them to believe. Well, in today's world, we call it fake news. All right, so we're going to get a new president in office in 1897. Remember, the elections are in the even years, and they get inaugurated in the odd years. So McKinley takes office. Spain and Cuba had been fighting for a few years, and the U.S. people were becoming sympathetic to Cuba Libre. That means free Cuba, due to yellow journalism. And the only way to help Cuba become free is the United States getting involved. He wants to solve the dispute diplomatically. That means without fighting. All right, so he gets Weyler recalled. He kind of steps in and wants him recalled. Remember, we've already talked about that in the last video. He steps in and starts seeing what's going on with the concentration camps. He doesn't want the people there treated so badly. And then he is trying to offer Cuba some limited self-government stuff. So basically what he's trying to do is he's trying to please the American people. So he's trying to help Cuba, but not get in a fight. So what that makes him seem like is a little bit of a coward. So, the Delome letter. Delome is the name of a guy who was the Spanish minister to the United States. If we had a problem with Spain, this was the guy we called. All right, very similar to a Secretary of State or an ambassador. That's kind of what we would call him here in the United States. The letter was written for Spain to read, and it called President McKinley weak and only looking to please people. However, obviously the letter got stolen, and we found out, and it gets published in a newspaper. We are angry over the insult to our president. The minister resigns and basically helps cause a war. All right, so it did end up getting posted in either the World or the Journal. I'm not sure which one. The next thing that happens is the USS Maine explodes, and it was sent to Cuba to bring home Americans. Now, the United States has U.S. citizens in Cuba. So we send a warship to pick them up. Now, that's probably not the best choice. I understand why we did it is to protect the people on the boat and the citizens in case something happens. But you're like showing up to a possible fight, ready to fight. So it kind of like you're provoking the situation a little bit. All right. It blows up in the Havana harbor. Havana is the capital of Cuba. It blows up there, and the journal is very quick to blame Spain. We've talked about that. All right. So this is another one of the causes. So the war is going to start. Spain thought the U.S. was going to attack Cuba. We don't. We attack the Spanish fleet all the way on the other side of the globe in the Philippines. All right. We're going to get into that in the next video.